Today on Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out, we're talking about when things have passed the expiration date. Have you stayed in a relationship even when you knew it was over? Are you trying to get out of a group and just don't know what to do? What is it that is stopping you from leaving a person, place, or thing that isn't quite right? Learn how to let go before something is past its prime as we wrap up our month focusing on being your most awesome self. Are you ready to clear your clutter and share your gifts with the world? Every Tuesday at 1 p.m., join me on Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out as I teach you how to navigate the waters to declutter your life, get organized, and become more mindful. I'm an award-winning professional organizer, author, and certified life coach, and I destroy the box and examine clutter in all areas. Every episode, I'll give you take-action steps that you can easily apply to your life. Come on, let's get started. Today's episode was inspired by my women's group that I left over a year ago and the coach that I had worked with. It was also, today's episode, inspired by clients. One of the great things about being an entrepreneur is you can let clients go. You can fire them if you aren't the best fit for you, or if they don't treat you right, then you can let them go. In both cases, fear has stopped me from doing what I needed to do. I was afraid that I wouldn't have friendships if I left my women's group. That turned out to be false, and if I'm really honest, they really weren't that strong to begin with. I tried, just weren't the peeps for me. Also, in leaving my mentor, worried that my dream wouldn't happen. Ended up not happening. So, what are you going to do? If it's not going to happen, it's not great being with someone who doesn't believe it's going to happen or doesn't support you. But I was afraid, well, if I let her go, then maybe I'm not going to be able to achieve this. And in those instances, it just got so bad that I'm like, I have to leave, and I have to be grateful for that. If they hadn't been so horrible, I might have not had the guts to leave. I recently let go of a client that I had some challenges with, and it had been time and time again coming, not getting paid, and I finally had enough. My fear was, well, if I release this client, am I going to have more business? And again, there are things in theory, but then you just have to trust. I say it a lot, trust that you will get what you need when you need it. And sometimes I, unfortunately, don't always do that myself, and had to remind myself, okay, come on, Jules, let's get it together. Let's listen to our own language. Listen to what you tell people. Walk your talk. When I released my women's group, it allowed me to focus on my physical health. And for 2019 is a really year for me where I've got business projects that I want to continue to focus on, but really, really focus on my physical health. I want to age well. I don't want to be one of those people that's a hot mess that you see at Target or whatever, just can barely walk. I don't want that. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we age. Not a lot of fun. So by releasing that, I'm allowing myself to focus on my physical health. And if I'm honest, I had put my spiritual health at the expense of my physical health, because I kept spending all my time and focus on that and neglected myself physically. At some point, I'll probably get into this a little more deeply. I'm actually writing about my experiences as a way to process my grief. Because, when something's a huge part of your life and it's no longer there, there is a grieving process that does take place. And at this point in time, my hope and desire is that when I share my pain, it will allow other people to heal and move forward. Suffice to say, I feel much better in all areas of life since leaving, and my pocketbook is a lot heavier as well. And the one thing I want to add about when I release a client that it just became, I wasn't having good boundaries, things that I've talked about this year, and it wasn't on my focus. It wasn't where I was choosing for my business to be. When I released that client, the opportunities that came open were just crazy. And I believe that when you clear your clutter, you say to the universe, okay, I'm opening myself up. What have you got for me? I'm ready. Let's roll. Let's do this. So if you were like me and fear is holding you back, I'm going to encourage you to trust that when you release what doesn't work for you, when you let go of things that aren't a good fit for your life, the universe, God, whatever term you use, steps up to join you in creating that life that you desire. How to know when it's time to move on. It can be a huge challenge. It took me at least 6 months. I know I'm embarrassed to share this with you all, but it's the truth. I put myself out here on the podcast so that you can learn from my mistakes. It took me at least 6 months to leave my mentor. I couldn't do it. I felt obligation is not the right word. I just didn't feel strong enough yet to be able to move. I had been irritated, and I felt kind of like that great Godfather, that line from The Godfather. I try to get out and they keep pulling me back in. Sorry, my apologies to, I believe it was Al Pacino. And so I started the process. I had signed up for 2 classes. I really didn't want to do that. The money, the time commitment. So I started by dropping 1 class. And then 2 months later, after the weekend seminar, a couple things happened at the weekend seminar where I felt it was a nice 2x4 to the head from the universe that finally had me say enough. I am done. I have reached my point. And then I was able to extract myself. It literally took me months to wind down from the experience. The worst thing was one of the last things she said to me. And I had gone to her with one goal in mind. And at the end, because she's very intuitive and knew that this was the last time she was going to see me, she said, what you desire is never going to happen. My thinking was, perhaps you could have told me that up front and given me the decision whether or not to work with you. I don't know how you work with someone for years and they drop a bomb like that on you. And again, writing about my experience, I share that with you because that reaffirms that, wow, you were past due, past expiration date to move forward. Here are some signs. Your self-esteem, your self-worth, your self-confidence. Lots of selfies here. They're all lowered. Examine the relationship or situation since the beginning. Are you being built up or let down? I had a 30-year friendship that I completely distanced myself from, and I continue to do so. I never respond from requests to get together because this person always had a pot shot that they wanted to take at me. And I thought, why am I doing this? It doesn't matter that we've been friends for a really long time. It's past its expiration date. Does a situation or job or person make you depressed or happy? Does it make you feel bad or good about yourself? When I left Los Angeles, the last job that I had was for a nonprofit. I was in the nonprofit world before becoming an entrepreneur. And I had a boss, Patrick, that made me feel horrible about myself. I was a grant writer then before I became a director of development, and he would just tear apart anything that I'd written. And I try to be the best writer possible. When I did these books, thank goodness for Cotty, thank goodness for my mom, thank goodness for my Uncle Jim, people looking at the edits for the grammar, the clarity, and Cotty, again, the content. She's so wonderful. If you're writing a book, you need to hire her to look at your content. And I wanted to do the best possible job. I didn't want a crappy book out there. I wanted a great book. However, I know a couple things. One, you can write until the cows come home. And the other thing is, I'm a good writer. I might say something differently than you, but it doesn't mean I'm less of a writer. And so anyway, Patrick would just red pen. And I would be demoralized. And I hated it. What I later learned was that the justification for hiring me was to do grants so that he could go out and be a director of development and raise funds. He didn't like fundraising. He didn't like talking to people and going out and do that. And the grant writing was his safety, his comfort zone. And so he would use that as an excuse to stay in the office. And one of those things, when I finally stood up to him, another little side story about the universe will meet you. I stood up to him. I remember he was trying to deny my vacation. Now, I planned, guys, and I was living in Los Angeles at the time, coming back to the East Coast a month in advance. I stood up because about a week or so before I was going to leave, or some short time, he was going to deny it. And I was like, no. We ended up having to talk with the executive director of the nonprofit. But after that, I stood up to him and I was like, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm not going to allow him to treat me like dirt, setting about boundaries, what we talked about earlier. I kid you not, within a week, he gave his resignation. I'd like to say that I had all this power. It's not true. And I found out later when I gave my notice, he tried to come back. He wanted the grant writing job because his thing wasn't going out and being a development person and raising money. And the great thing about that story is, too, after having one of the worst bosses I ever had, I had Richard, who was one of the best bosses I've ever had in my life. So had some lessons to learn. But every day I'd be demoralized. It was awful. It was past its expiration date. And then something had to shift, and it shifted when Patrick left. So examine those situations. Are you feeling good or are you feeling bad? When trust is broken again and again, promises aren't kept. It's usually something you can't recover from. When my mentor said that last thing to me, the whole time I spent with her became a joke. It's not easy to share this. And if you're in a similar situation, I'm hoping today's episodes give you the courage and the power and the wherewithal to get out and move on. After she said that to me, if she would have said that at any point in the 3 or 4 years that I worked with her, I would have left because I didn't trust her after that. I didn't trust anything she said. So examine how well you trust them or they're keeping promises. It's not an equal relationship. You know, with my mentor, there was a power dynamic going on there for sure. And I was also paying her. As with the boss, it might be harder to define what an equal relationship is. You know, I mentioned having the awesome boss, Richard. Richard was my boss. There was no confusion about that. But he said, okay, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What can I do for you? Went to bat and got myself and Patty, the other woman I worked with, a raise. That, in my mind, was an equal relationship. I supported him and he supported me. So look at the equality. Because if it's not equal, it's time to move on. Can you easily navigate the ups and downs of life? Are you tired of feeling stuck? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. If you are ready to take that first step, go to reawakenyourbrilliance.com to learn how I can support you in creating the life you desire. Another thing with my mentor was there were times I felt she wasn't walking her talk and her words didn't match her action. We had one woman who in the group who just had a ton of money, and there were other things that she just helped her with. And I kind of a couple times thinking, why aren't you calling Susan out on that? That's not okay. Again, wasn't my course, wasn't my class, wasn't my position to say anything. That was key to me. So look around if you're thinking it's time to move on for the relationship. Are the people you hanging out with walking their talk? Are they expecting you to do something? Do as I say, or do as I do, not as I say, or whatever that phrase is. Are they walking their talk? Anything that makes you out of integrity. Be proud to be who you are and don't change. If someone's asking you to change, if they belittle you, time to move forward. Maybe someone's too needy and it's time to move past that relationship. Talked about a client in another episode that was too needy for me. I couldn't be everything to her and she wasn't taking action, and working with me wasn't going to support her. It wasn't just for my benefit, it was for her benefit as well. When someone is too needy, then that's when you have to think, okay, I think this relationship has run its course. I put together some thoughts that might support you in figuring out if something is past its expiration date. When you're hoping, wishing, praying, begging something will change and take away whatever is causing you pain. When you feel you can't shine your life because it will upset someone. When you spend a lot of time angry, upset, sad, frustrated, instead of happy, content, and motivated. When you feel exhausted at the thought of this person or situation or place. When you've changed yourself to make someone else happy. What do you do when you feel conflicted about moving forward? I was in this situation. I felt conflicted about leaving my coach, as I mentioned, probably at least 6 months, if not longer, before I actually had the courage to do so. One of the first steps that I took in that direction was not renewing the class in August. And I'll never forget, she had said something to me about removing this one class. And I had been so focused on releasing that class, I didn't even get the reference. Because she said, oh, people missed you. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. I never felt that with the group, because now I'm beginning to be aware and be honest about everything. And again, I saw this woman for 4 years. I was involved in retreats and groups and a lot of that. And it took me some time, 6+, maybe a year. I know the struggle's real. So if you're struggling, I get that. But how do we move you forward? Meditate. Do deep breathing. It's okay to admit you don't know what the next step is. I didn't know what the next step was. Took a deep breath. Quit one of the classes. That was the first step, but I took it. When we meditate, when we honor that time for our soul, our next step will be shown to us. Or you'll be in a situation where I was, where it's like, oh my gosh, this is so above and beyond, I can't stay here anymore. It'll just be that big bam to the head that says, hello, we've been trying to reach you. Have good self-care. Clear your space, clear your mind, get lots of sleep, stay hydrated, and get some outside time. Have routines. Address anything that's stressing you out. I'm talking about taking much better physical care of myself and beginning to get into routines for that. Stretching is something that I'm adding to my routine. As you get older, you need to stretch. You wake up some days and are like, what? Prioritize. When you are clear on what you desire and choose, it will come to you. When I let go of the women's group, I had all this other opportunities, for example, with my alma mater that came to me. When you put that foot forward, the universe rises up to meet you. Flex your decision-making skills. This can be done. In college, I was called the indecisive one. I hated making decisions because I always feared I was going to make the wrong ones. So this is a time, make decisions. Practice that. Begin small. Make a decision to say yes to something if you need to, or make a decision to say no to someone. Make a decision on what workout you're going to do at the gym. Start to flex those, because as you become more comfortable making smaller decisions, you're more equipped to handle and make the bigger decisions. Let go of any just becauses. This kept me stuck for a really long time, and I know better. I talk about the just becauses. I've been doing it and talking about them for years. Just because you've always gone to the group doesn't mean you have to continue the group. Just because she's been your coach for a year doesn't mean you have to continue coaching with her. Just because you've always been the one to do the daily pickup doesn't mean you have to continue. Take those small steps, build that just because muscle, and how to release and move forward when you're conflicted about going on and saying no and letting go. Take any small actions that you can. Doing something is better than doing nothing. And those small steps add up. Letting go of the class. Not responding when something mean is said. Ignoring comments on Facebook. Unfollowing someone on Facebook. Being unavailable to get together. All those small steps end up to moving forward. Do things that make you happy. When you begin to do that and have that happiness and have that joy, hang with people that support and love you, those things that are past due become much more apparent. One of the great things when I got married was, and when I met my husband as well, was it really made me define what was important, see how well I was being treated, that I wasn't going to allow anyone who didn't do right by me to be in my life. It was just like this, not quite instantaneous, but things became so much more clear. I was able to release people, places, and things that weren't for me. And finally, lean on your family and friends. Whoever your tribe is, the people that you trust that are good to you, that's the time to say, hey, can I talk to you about this? Or I'm really struggling. What would you do? Because I'm stuck. I don't know how to move forward. What advice would you have for me? How do you move on? Be like Nike and just do it. Be decisive. That's why I talked about making decisions. When you practice that decision making, boom, you can be decisive and let it go. Make the conscious decision to do so. We have awareness plus action equals change. Make the conscious decision. And during this process, while it took me a few months to leave the coach, mentor, and the group, I had made a conscious decision that it was going to happen that year. I just said, okay, you know what? I am figuring my way out of this, but it is time to move on. And so when I set that in motion, it allowed me to make the decisions and take the smaller steps that eventually allowed me to leave. Forgive you. Forgive yourself. Don't beat yourself up. And I have to admit, I'm still struggling with this. And sometimes in big things in my life, something happened and I'm like, oh, could I have done this differently? Forgive yourself. Okay, you did the best that you could. And even if you made the worst possible decisions, who cares? You're still good enough, worthy, and loved. Forgive yourself. That's going to allow you to move forward. And you need to forgive the person. I have to tell you, I'm going to be honest, I'm still struggling. A couple people in the group, because we're so unkind to me and so mean to me, I still struggle with this. And I also have found in my life that forgiveness, I believe, is layers. And so I've had some level of forgiveness to everything, but not 100%. And that's okay. Again, you know, these are huge things that impacted my life. They aren't the person that cut me off in traffic driving back from my meeting today. Let that go. Forgive that. That's not even worth an ounce of my energy. But know that it's a process. Be present. Being present is our point of power to change. So all this stuff with the women's group happened in the past. So how can I bring myself present when I find myself getting upset and frustrated? What can I do? Okay, Julie, be present. Be present. What action can you take? What do you need to do to be able to move forward? Feel your feeling. This is so important. I have anger, I have sadness, frustration, all there. So I kick it, scream it out, punch it out, cry it out, whatever it is I need to do. Because remember, emotions are just energy in motion and we want to move. But when we get stuck, they become cluttered and we stuff them, or maybe we eat too much and stuff them down, or maybe we have knee-jerk reactions because the emotion, the anger is like, hey, I'm going to come out no matter what you do. Okay? So take the time to feel your feelings because it's a process. And when we don't, the things can stay stuck. I can forgive more quickly, more easily when I do some kind of physical movement to release and acknowledge what I'm feeling. And finally, know you have a choice. You have a choice to move on. Doesn't mean you have to take it. There's no good or bad, right or wrong here, but just be aware. Know that you have a choice. I can make the choice to forgive or not. I can make the choice to move forward or not. I can make the choice to leave the group. I can make the choice to end the friendship. I can make the choice to leave a job. We always have a choice. Don't get stuck into victim mentality thinking, oh, I don't have a choice. Yes, you always have a choice, and doing nothing is a choice. And when you recognize that, that empowers you. Then you can take steps, you can make decisions, and you can choose to move forward. Take actions from today's podcast. Recognize the signs of when you have overstayed with a relationship, place, job, thing. Decide where you need to move on. Is it from where you live, your goals, your friendships, your place of employment? Give yourself permission to move onward and upward. Be clear in your priorities. Practice good self-care, especially when you're struggling to leave or make changes. Get support to get you over the hump of moving forward. Do a regular mindfulness practice. Make the decision to cut the cord and then follow through. Forgive everyone, including yourself. Feel your feelings. Remain in the present moment as much as you are able. Next month, we're talking about RESPECT, respect. Go out, clear the clutter to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire. Are you ready to live a more joyful and fulfilling life? Sign up for our newsletter at reawakenyourbrilliance.com and receive a free copy of 10 Steps to Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love it if you would rate and review the show because it really helps us in the search ranking. See you next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Remember, when you clear your clutter, you can create the life you desire.